And our other big focus this morning, in a first for China, the government has now admitted the death of a Uighur man whose family believed that he was held in Xinjiang camp since 2017. The government confirmed the death formally to the United Nations. Abdul Ghaffur Hafiz disappeared and he was registered with the United Nations Working Group in April 2019. But the Chinese government didn't respond to the formal inquiries until this month. According to reports by The Guardian, when it did respond, it told the group that the retired driver from Kashgar had died almost 2 years ago of severe pneumonia and tuberculosis, while his daughter has disputed the suggestion that he died of pneumonia and tuberculosis in 2018. The formal acknowledgement of his death is significant for the Uighur community. Not only is it an extraordinarily rare response from the Chinese government, it also raises hope of a potentially legal recourse. China began persecuting Uighur Muslims back in 2014. Details of these detention camps that are masquerading as vocational training centers have come out in the last few years. Currently, more than 1 million Uyghurs are believed to be detained in camps. This is seen as one of the biggest crackdowns on ethnic minorities in the world. The Chinese Communist Party has repeatedly refused requests by international bodies to independently visit and investigate the region, despite growing international backlash. Now, for more on this, we are being joined by Andrew K.P. Leung for more on this story. Thank you so much for joining, Mr. Andrew. It is a rare step by the Chinese government to formally confirm the death to the United Nations of a Uighur man. What do you make of this?
Well, this is part of the global rhetoric or narrative that China has now become a kind of Frankenstein, in the words of Mike Pompeo, that is threatening global values. But of course, that there is need for greater transparency, greater information on the part of Beijing. But the rhetoric is that China somehow destroying the Uyghurs' heritage and the values. But on the other hand, it's always easy to be one-sided or adopt double standards. What I'm trying to say is that, of course, as far as national security is concerned, which of course is a big thing in the United States, and which uses national security to cover almost everything. But in the eyes of Beijing, the kind of separatist and also terrorism from Xinjiang, of course, affects the security of the nation. So China needs to be more transparent on that. But on the other hand, no one seems to query the Americans setting up a Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, subjecting prisoners to extrajudicial kind of treatment. No one seems to be asking for questions about that. And also, as far as the Uyghurs' heritage is concerned, few people recall or understand that on the back of the China's currency, the renminbi, right from the beginning, there are 5 languages printed on the banknotes. You can check it and you can get a banknote renminbi. One of the language is the Uyghur language. Is the 5 languages representing the largest ethnic groups in China, because China consists of 56 different ethnic groups. And of course, then there are all sorts of mosques, not only in Xinjiang, but all over the country. So I think that this kind of black and white kind of rhetoric needs a little bit of balance as well.
All right. Mr. Andrew, I also want to ask you, China has repeatedly refused the presence of internment camps. Now, do you think this confirmation could have something to do with the pressure from international bodies?
Well, naturally, as I was saying, there was a global campaign led by the United States to blacken China, rightly or wrongly, because China is now a bed of roses, but on the other hand, no country is. But I think that this kind of Xinjiang story is going to be making a big thing. So I said that there is need for more transparency from China, but also the international community needs to adopt a more balanced view, because as I was saying, what's happening in Guantanamo Bay in the United States, the world's foremost democracy. And also look at the kind of culture being preserved in China, in terms of the printing of the Uighur language on the Chinese banknote right from the start, and also the mosques all over China. So I think that one has got to adopt a more balanced view, and China needs to be more transparent and to indeed either do improvements in its own internal governance, but also doing better in kind of rhetoric around the world.
Talking about transparency, do you think now a visit or an investigation of the Xinjiang region would be likely?
Well, I think that in this kind of mood of people wanting to find fault with China, as in the case of the coronavirus crisis, it's always easy to find fault, and it's always difficult to say what is balanced. Look at the kind of media in the United States. Are they totally balanced or even-handed? It's difficult to say. So I think that in this difficult situation, it's very difficult to let in a kind of investigation. But on the other hand, China needs to be more transparent, more forthcoming, and to come up with a more credible story. But also trying to put this picture in a broader context of relative kind of practices adopted by even countries like the United States in Guantanamo Bay.
Yes. And on similar lines, do you think that this confirmation could make way for legal recourse now? Well,
I think that this is going to carry on for quite some time, because I think whosoever is in the White House in the future, the realization that China has become an existential threat to American-led global order. But of course, China's becoming stronger. It's not accepting that it's continuing to be under American dominance. Not that China would like to replace the United States entirely, because China is not able, it's not capable of doing so. But on the other hand, of course, China wants to carve its own position, as in the case of India and upcoming countries in the developing world. So the world is changing, and I think that people's mindset needs to be more open, needs to be more balanced.
Mr. Andrew, you make a very important point there. Thank you so much for joining us with all those inputs.